Chapter 2. The early morning air was thick with humidity, clinging to my skin like an unwanted second layer. Keep up the pace, recruits. Our drill instructor's voice boomed from somewhere behind me, pushing us forward. It was time for PT, and today was a run day. 5 miles. I'd always been a decent athlete, but running was my weakness. Here, though, you didn't get to have weaknesses. They'd sorted us into 3 categories based on our times: rabbits, turtles, and snails. Rabbits hit on us under a 6 minute mile, turtles were anywhere between 7 and 10, and well, snails were the over 10-minute crowd, the big guys, the ones that had to carry a little extra everywhere they went. I fell somewhere in the middle, a reluctant turtle, wishing I was anywhere but here, as we pounded the ground mile after mile. We finally completed the run, gasping for breath, legs aching, but there was no time to catch up. Right away, we lined up outside our barracks, backpacks slung on, and rifles in hand, ready for whatever drill they had planned next. 6 platoons, lined up in formation. My bunkmate was next to me, muttering something under his breath about breakfast, making me crack a smile for a split second. I regretted it immediately. "Recruit Scott." I froze, recognizing the voice and the razor edge of anger in it. "Yes, sir," I shouted, snapping to attention. "You think it's funny to smile in my formation?" He spat, practically breathing fire. "No, sir," I replied, but I already knew what was coming. "Come with me," he ordered, dragging me to the front of the entire regiment. He had me hold my rifle out in front of me at shoulder height, just with my thumbs and index fingers. 7.9 pounds doesn't sound like much, but when you hold it long enough, it feels like it's made of lead. Hundreds of eyes were watching me, each silently grateful that they weren't the one in the spotlight. After what felt like hours, but was probably just a few minutes, I heard the loud "Attention" echoing across the formation, followed by the synchronized slam of boots hitting the ground. The commander of the regiment had arrived. Mercifully, I was ordered back into formation, and we were put at parade rest, an actual relief compared to attention. Once we were all lined up, the drill instructor finally gave the command to move out. 6 platoons marching in unison, each step pounding the ground in perfect sync, each of us chanting back the instructor's cadence as we went. The sun was rising, casting a strange beauty across the trees and fields around us, places on the island we never saw during our usual routines. For a while, the rhythm of the march, the steady beat of our boots, was almost peaceful, but nothing good lasts for long around here. When we returned to the barracks, sweat-soaked and bone-tired, the drill instructor stood in front of us, waiting with a look of utter disdain. The commander had given us a rare few words of encouragement, but the drill instructors weren't about to let us off easy. Just as we thought we'd be dismissed, they gave the order to return to our barracks, and they released all 6 platoons at the same time. It was chaos. The first floor recruits jammed up in front of their doors, blocking the way, while those of us on the upper floors didn't want to wait. People shoved and pushed, trying to make it up the stairs. Someone behind me rammed their rifle into my back, and I stumbled forward, jabbing the poor guy in front of me with my own rifle's muzzle. He hit the floor hard, a nasty cut already forming on his forehead. Around me, elbows flew, boots stomped, and rifles clanged against metal railings and each other. The entire stairwell had turned into a free-for-all. By the time I finally broke free and made it into my barracks, the drill instructors were already storming through the chaos, hauling recruits out of the brawl and shouting commands, trying to regain control. Several people had taken hits, bloody noses, cut lips, even broken fingers. We had medics evaluating injuries within minutes, and when the dust settled, 11 of our guys were sent off to get patched up. That night, we stood on the line, all 89 of us who hadn't been dragged to medical. No showers, no rest, just standing in silence, each of us battered, bruised, and waiting for what was coming next. The door at the end of the barracks slammed open, and the drill instructor's voice cut through the quiet like a knife. "Oh, you freaking recruits want a freaking fight in my freaking yard?" He didn't wait for a response. "Get your asses out of my building and line up downstairs." I could feel a knot tightening in my stomach as we marched back outside. They lined us up on the asphalt, the rough surface grinding against our boots as we held our rifles at attention. The drill instructor paced in front of us, eyes blazing with fury. "You're gonna wish you were at sick bay?" He sneered. "By the end of tonight, most of you probably will be." And with that, he had us drop down for push-ups. Endless push-ups, our arms trembling, muscles burning as we pushed ourselves up and down on the rough ground. Sweat trickled down my face, stinging the cuts on my hands as we counted each rep out loud, our voices growing weaker with each one. When he finally let us stop, we barely had a second to breathe before he ordered us to stand, rifles back at shoulder height. "Hold it up," he barked, and we obeyed, our arms screaming with the effort. I stole a glance around, seeing my fellow recruits' faces twisted in pain, but we were all beyond feeling sorry for ourselves. We were in it together, each one of us bearing the weight of this punishment, holding our rifles until our hands went numb, our fingers barely gripping the cold metal. Finally, he gave us the order to lower our rifles. "Back to the line," he shouted, and we scrambled into formation, standing stiffly at attention. No one dared make a sound, and I could tell by the look in his eyes that he wasn't finished with us. By the time he finally dismissed us, the barracks was silent. We were too exhausted to talk, too drained to even look at each other as we made our way to our racks. The drill instructor's words echoed in my head, a dark promise that every mistake would cost us, that every action had consequences. I climbed into my rack, feeling even the bruises on my arms and the raw spots on my hands where the rifle had rubbed my skin raw. Closing my eyes, I let the exhaustion take over, knowing that in just a few short hours, it would all begin again.